Imagine a world carved from ice and stone. This was the reality for the Vikings. No fantasy, just survival in brutal Scandinavia. The wind howled, the sea threatened, and every day was a battle against the elements. In this harsh world, fire was everything. A single flame meant warmth, safety, and life. Fire kept predators at bay and darkness at arm's length. It thawed frozen limbs, dried clothes, and turned raw meat into sustenance. For Vikings, making fire was as vital as breathing, using fire, steel, and flint, coaxing sparks into flame with dried fungus or birchbark. This was more than a chore, it was a ritual that united the community. The hearth in the longhouse was the heart of Viking life. Stories, plans, and warmth all centered around it. Smoke drifted up, blackening rafters, while the fire below was the soul of the home. In the end, fire was the ultimate symbol of survival. Forget the Hollywood feasts. Viking diets were shaped by necessity and ingenuity. They used everything the land and sea offered: cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, and wild game like deer and elk. Nothing was wasted. Every part of the animal had a purpose. The sea provided cod, herring, and salmon, eaten fresh or preserved by drying, smoking, or salting for winter. Foraging was essential. Berries, nuts, greens, roots, and mushrooms supplemented their meals. Hardy crops like barley, oats, and rye became bread and porridge. Their diet was a masterclass in survival, blending farming, hunting, fishing, and foraging. Archaeology reveals a people who planned for months ahead, not just for tomorrow. The Viking larder was a testament to resourcefulness and resilience. Every meal was a victory against starvation. For big gatherings, Vikings used the ingenious pit oven, an earth oven that turned tough meat into feasts. It was more than cooking, it was about community and celebration. The process began by digging a pit, lining it with stones, and building a roaring fire to heat them white hot. Once ready, the fire was cleared, and layers of wet vegetation were added to create steam and protect the food. Whole animals wrapped in leaves were placed inside, then sealed under earth. The pit trapped heat and steam, slow cooking the food for hours or overnight. When opened, the result was tender, flavorful meat that fell off the bone. This method required teamwork, patience, and a deep understanding of nature. The pit oven was a survival skill and a social event rolled into one. It brought people together, turning scarcity into abundance. The earth oven was a symbol of Viking ingenuity. It was a feast born from the land itself. Daily Viking cooking was all about simplicity and resourcefulness. Stone boiling was a staple. Hot rocks dropped into wooden or leather containers to cook stews and porridges. This indirect heat method let them cook without metal pots, using what nature provided. Flat stones served as griddles for bread, fish, and thin meats, giving food a quick, delicious char. The spit roast was the centerpiece of any celebration. Meat slowly turned over the hearth, basted in its own juices. These methods were fast, efficient, and required minimal tools. Every meal was a lesson in making the most of fire, stone, and iron. The Vikings adapted their cooking to whatever they had on hand. Their techniques were born of necessity, but refined by experience. Norse cooking was about turning the simplest resources into hearty, satisfying meals. It was survival, but it was also tradition and pride. The genius was in their adaptability. Organizing a Viking feast was a monumental task, a display of wealth, power, and community spirit. Planning began months in advance, gathering and preserving food for the big day. Archaeology reveals massive rubbish pits filled with animal bones, evidence of grand celebrations. Huge iron cauldrons, spits, and ornate drinking vessels show the scale and status of these events. The menu featured roasted meats, bubbling stews, fresh bread, cheese, and plenty of ale and mead. Feasts were more than meals. They were social glue, binding the community together. Every detail, from the food to the vessels, reflected the host's status. For a brief moment, the struggle for survival gave way to abundance and unity. The Viking feast was a triumph of planning, skill, and communal joy. Viking survival skills aren't just history, they're timeless lessons in resourcefulness. Modern bushcraft borrows directly from these ancient techniques. The pit oven or ground oven is still used worldwide for slow-cooking food with earth and hot stones. Stone boiling remains a vital skill for purifying water and cooking without metal pots. Cooking on flat stones or spit roasting over a fire are still go-to methods for outdoor survival. These techniques prove that with fire, stone, wood, and ingenuity, you can thrive anywhere. The Vikings saw their environment as a resource, not an obstacle. A rock became a griddle, a hole became an oven, a stick became a tool. Their mindset, adapt, use what you have, and work with nature, is the heart of survival. These skills are as relevant today as they were 1,000 years ago. The Viking way is a blueprint for resilience. In our world of convenience, we've lost touch with the basics of survival. Learning Viking skills isn't just about prepping for disaster, it's about reconnecting with our roots. Building a fire or cooking with hot stones gives a sense of empowerment modern gadgets can't match. These skills turn you from a passive consumer into an active survivor. They build confidence and a deep connection to the world around you. Suddenly, a walk in the woods becomes a search for resources, firewood, tinder, cooking stones. This is the mindset of the survivor. The Viking, always aware, always adapting. The Norse thrived because they mastered the basics: fire, food, shelter. Studying their methods teaches us resilience and ingenuity. With patience and respect for nature, we can overcome any challenge. The Viking lesson is timeless. Knowledge and adaptability are our greatest strengths. Viking cooking is more than ancient recipes. It's a story of survival and ingenuity. Their methods, pit ovens, stone boiling, spit roasting, show the power of practical knowledge. The Vikings thrived in harsh conditions by observing, learning, and adapting. Their science was hands-on, passed down through generations. These skills remind us that true security comes from what we know and can do, not what we own. The flame in the Viking longhouse was a symbol of community and resilience. It's a lesson in using mind and hands to thrive, no matter the challenge. That enduring spirit is a lesson for the ages.